when you do a charity for someone and you are being the host of it and you notice these things, even if it was a mistake that wasn't ended up being an afterthought, it is on you as the host to immediately communicate that with the beneficiary and not leave them hanging in the wind, regardless of your intention.
Apparently, the landlord wrote down that Shawn left due to an eviction, rather than deciding that the apartment, and the entire city for that matter, was not the best place to live or to find work again. As the person who remained in constant communication with Shawn before, during, and after his move, I will again not apologize for hosting this fundraiser for him. First off, the documents that you found don't necessarily make the claim that he didn't pay rent, and secondly, I am confident that the funds Shawn received were used responsibly and for their intended purpose. His honesty and transparency is the only reason some have a value to bitch about in the first place, because he never hid how much the fundraiser brought in, and if you're trying to run a scam, you tend to be a little more sneaky than that. Shawn's shitty bookkeeping does not invalidate what I know transpired.
But in the description, there is a PayPal link to Shawn Hufford. And so basically, all revenue should go to Shawn Hufford because Shawn Hufford actually fucking needs it. So Shawn, as much as you're willing to share, would you like to tell the peeps, the bitches, and the hoes what the fuck is actually going on?
Well, everybody knows by now I've lost my job. And we talked about this last month. And right now, we've actually held a fundraiser the other day on Side Strike's channel and met our goal. Reg wants to make sure that I have a buffer in case jobs don't come. And that's where we're at today. You know, I'm set for this month's bills. Reg just wants to make sure that there's a buffer there in case I don't find a job either in time or at all.
Looking at everything big picture, and with the difficulty that Shawn has had in trying to gain employment in the area he is currently at, we have actually come up with a figure that would allow Shawn to relocate to a place where he already has an outstanding job offer, just has to go through the rest of the screening process and physically get down there. That is the upper echelon that we would hit, which is, get ready guys, because this is quite the number, but it's 10,000 US.
And there's actually a very legitimate reason for that. Just to explain, where I live now, when you break a lease, you have to pay the remainder of said lease. So I'm at 10 months in, left on my lease. So that would be 10 months of rent I would have to pay to not get sued. That's why it's a big number. Yeah, I could still ditch out and wait for the court papers to come in for violating the lease, where they're going to collect, put me through a collection agency, and I'd not make money for however long I'm working where I have the job.
Do y'all not have renters' rights or renters' protection rules there? There's like
not
laws
very
that are
many
designed. Yeah, but there's laws that are designed for this. Like most, and it would be interesting to know that a state or a county doesn't like look out for people who fall upon hard times that can't pay rent, that don't need to be sued for 10 months worth of rent when they could just usually pay a 60 days to get out of it. I mean, that 10 months of lease, that's a big chunk of money to just be giving somebody. I mean, I understand that they'll take you to court and all that, and that's unfortunate. That's an unfortunate thing that we're allowed to do in this country, and it works for us at times and it doesn't at other times. But right now, I think it would work for you, Shawn, just to stretch that out and give yourself an opportunity to put that paper in your pocket. I would, if it was me, and I know this is immoral and unethical to say that I would do this, but I think that survivability is more important than ethics at this point. I would take the loss.
Gary IOW actually hit the nail on the head. The way that this place does their business is if you break your lease, they'll make sure to not re-rent the apartment out until your lease actually would have expired. That way they can actually get you for the full lease amount of time without actually paying because the water here is paid for by the apartment complex. So that's less money they got to pay out in bills. So yeah, they're looking at any way to save a buck, and for people to violate a lease, that's the best way they can do it.
Speaking of nibbles, Shawn, go ahead and give the rest of the plan with the goals, reveals, and everything. That way the audience knows what extra benefit they would be getting other than just helping you out and get to a better situation to where we won't have to worry about this.
Oh, okay. When I was down in Florida for that rocket launch where I didn't get hardly anything, I actually got a chance to talk to Red's manager. I actually have a outstanding job offer and she's already met me, so the whole gynecomastia thing's is a non-issue. So I've got a job down there. It's just the point of getting down there, establishing a place to stay, which there's actually a plan in the background going on with that already. But it's the fact that I need to break the lease here, get moved down there without getting my ass dragged through court. And that's pretty much it.
But even if they drag you through court, and if they do that, that's fine. It's money you're going to have to pay anyway, right?
Right.
I mean,
dragging through court. It's not just that. If they drag him through court and he's already in the process or has relocated to Florida, there's also the additional cost that way. That's why if it's all going to be paid out anyways, rather than let it get to court, just getting it taken care of and out of the way, and that way it's not anything to be worried about, would be ideal and in the long run save more money. And unless you can get a lawyer who thinks that he can win,
it'll save money, time, and credit score, which I really can't take a hit to that at all.
But with that, we actually do have a purpose with everything that Shawn and JC are facing with the extended circumstances of the reason for their road trip. There's a reason why the description only has one thing in there. It is the link to Shawn Hufford's PayPal. That way he can be recouped the funds that were unceremoniously taken from him by the former roommate.
Oh, okay. Let me talk about this, Jared. First of all, Jared, were you actually about to call me Shawn Hufford?
Pufford, yeah. It was. I stopped myself. I
caught that. But anyway, what happened is everybody should be aware by now that me and JC are a thing now. You know, we're an actual couple. Surprise, you know. But my old roommate, which we had a joint bank account for the last, 12 years, decided that even though the whole purpose of the fundraiser that we held many months back was to get them back down to their family in Georgia, and I was going to be moving on to Red. Well, because of my meeting of JC, my destination has changed, but the whole plan was to get my ex-roommate back down to Georgia. Well, they decided that when I came out here to start getting things settled in with JC, to start draining the bank account. So their first day was 3 days ago. They decided to take $300 out of the account. I was thinking, okay, maybe they're just going to buy a bus trip and be all done with it. And then the next day, they took out another $480.
Ow.
At that point, things had to be done. So me and JC hopped in the van after she got off work, came back to Indiana. The money's gone. There's no way I'm getting that back. They've already gotten on the bus, but we kind of had to pay for all this out of JC's pocket because my bank account got ransacked. And yeah, that's where we're at now. We're trying to recoup the losses for that.
Oh, bushy boy.
Yeah, that was a very fun, unplanned adventure.
Oof.
Well, do something.
So one of the goal, I asked you why that goal was set, the $10,000 goal, and what was the specific reason for that goal?
Okay, the goal was to cover 10 months of lease because the lease was signed July 3rd. So July's rent was already paid, August's rent was already paid, which left 10 months left on the lease. In Indiana, a landlord is supposed to provide every effort to try to get a rental apartment leased out to somebody else if the original leaseholder is either evicted or moves out. Because the original leaseholder is responsible for all of the time that the apartment is empty. Now, the complex that I lived in has a very, very nasty habit, which they are still living up to this day, of saying that an apartment is under renovation until that lease would have run out. That way they don't have to worry about, repair expenses from people breaking stuff in case, like say your dishwasher goes out. They don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about paying to replace that. That's free money in their pocket. It's unethical for them to do, but unless you can prove that the apartment is actually rentable and they're not, you can't do anything about it. So you have to pay for a lease in full until it's rented out, which I actually got reached out to by an old friend in Elkhart that I haven't talked to in years. Asked me what's going on. He didn't even know that I moved. So I had him go and check. if the apartment's still if it's been rented yet, it's still empty. And it's been 6 months, 7 actually, since I've been there.
If you had just left, if you had just packed your shit and walked away, what would have happened?
What would have happened is when the lease would have ran out, they rent the apartment out again to somebody else. They would have hit me for every month of rent in court that the apartment was left empty. And that would have been up to 10 months. So I wanted to make sure that was covered. And then there was enough to be able to handle getting a U-Haul to move all of her stuff down to Florida. Well, dropping her off in Georgia, obviously, and then going to Florida from there. So I wanted everything covered without question, which is why there was a $10,000 goal. It was huge, it was lofty, but it would have covered everything.
Worst case scenario, basically.
Worst case scenario. So I just wanted to make sure that everything was covered because it would have taken a while to build up funds to pay that back if we didn't reach that goal at all, working where Red's had a job lined up for me.
Now, from what we talked about, you said that $10,000 fundraiser came up with $7,480 in funds.
Mm-hmm.
And when you did the math on how much that 10 months would have cost to just walk away without worry of eviction and anything else, would have cost $7,450.
Yes, because rent was $745 a month.
So you paid $7,450 hard cash check to walk away.
Yes.
You serious?
Do you have anything to substantiate that?
Well, since we had to bring everything down in 2 van trips, most of my stuff actually got left in Elkhart, along with the table that had all of our leasing and paperwork involved in that. It was a computer desk in the living room. That's still there as far as, well, that was there. It's empty now. But yeah, there's nothing there. The bank account has been closed because it had a 0 balance for like 3 months straight, so they closed the account automatically. So whatever they did with the desk, that's where the receipt is, or the ex took it with her when she left. One of the two.
You recognize that not being able to provide that does raise into question the actual payment, and that is an avenue that you could be attacked from.
Yes, I do, but all I can say to that is an eviction will show up on a credit report, and my credit report is only showing a $92 medical bill, which I have no knowledge of.
Interesting how that works.